And once again, welcome to one of our City of Richmond COVID-19 updates. The City of Richmond continues to be in phase 3 of Ford, Virginia. The local government is also in phase 3 as well of our operating procedures. And if you have any questions about what city services can be accessed, we ask that you visit richmondgov.com/COVID-19. And if you're unclear how Ford, Virginia affects a small business or any of the small businesses that you may patron, we ask that you go to rvastrong.org/reopening guidance. As of this morning, the Richmond City Health District is reporting 3,950 positive cases here in the city of Richmond since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. 49 Richmond residents have lost their lives to this disease. As always, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for those who have perished. Thank you. As I requested a few weeks ago, I still believe everyone should download the COVID-Wise app. There you can get notifications of exposures. And then there are also plenty of testing options as well available in the community. We have a testing event tomorrow, September 3rd at Tuckahoe Middle School from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Remember that these events are available to the broad public, regardless of insurance, citizen status, mobility, or geographical location. As always, if it would make you feel more comfortable or your family feel more comfortable, we request that you get tested. Not only for your good, but also for the good of our community as well. And if you are unsure of your testing options, please visit rvastrong.org/testing, rvastrong.org/testing. Or you can call their hotline at 804-205-3501. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that masks, face coverings, are still a mandatory requirement. You still have to wear a mask. I've seen some people more recently not adhering to some of these guidelines. Wear one at all times. It helps reduce the transmission of this virus. We will sound like a broken record when we're done with this, because this is how important it is to me, but also to this community. If we don't want to go back to shutdown mode, then we have to wear our mask. We have to wear face coverings. Also remember that we have a mask network as well here that we've created and set up here within the city limits. Our mask network is expanding. If you represent a church, a nonprofit, neighborhood association, or other community space and want to join the network, we ask that you visit rva311.com and search MASK, M-A-S-K. Now, before we pass it on over to Dr. Avula for a update on the public health status of our city, I want folks to know that I've been in contact with Sheriff Antoinette Irving. I've also been in contact with VCU President Dr. Michael Rao as well on the status of COVID-19, not only on inside the Richmond City, the Justice Center, but also on campus at VCU. Both have assured me that prioritizing safety is their top priority, the safety and health of those who are either residents at the Justice Center or also residents of this city, and also those who are students at VCU. Let's talk about the Justice Center first. Since prioritizing safety there is of utmost priority to us, also to the sheriff as well. This is why strict quarantines in some blocks have taken place. These quarantines are occurring because they want to ensure that the safety of not only the incarcerated persons there, but also of the staff that also work at the jail. I've also reached out to leaders of neighboring localities who have experienced similar outbreaks of incarcerated individuals as well. We want the sheriff to make sure that the information that she has is readily accessible to the public and a plan is in place in case of widespread infection. Dr. Avula will now provide an update on the city's health status, and he will also probably speak to what's going on at VCU and also at the city jail as well. So with that, Dr. Danny Avula.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. Just an overview of what's happening in Central Region. We continue to be in the category of a high burden of disease with a fluctuating trend. So the Central Region is still in the category of substantial community transmission. Here in Richmond, we have had a decreasing trend in cases over the last 4 days. Our percent positivity right now is 5.2%. One of the things we have seen as a significant trend over the last 2 weeks has been the increase in cases in the 0 to 19 age. They've really, the case count by week has about tripled in that age range. Much of that was due to college reentry, both because VCU had students tested prior to starting school, and so that generated a few new cases, but then obviously you've read about the clusters that VCU is currently facing, and so that has contributed to the increase we've seen in that 0 to 19 age range. I'll say a few words about what's happening in the Richmond City Jail. We have continued to be in close contact with the sheriff and her team. In the month of August, they were very aggressive about testing both inmates and staff, testing over 1,200 individuals during that time. At this time, they have 91 positive inmates currently who are all cohorted separately from the rest of the population. They also have a category of individuals who either were potentially exposed to some of those new positives or are showing symptoms. They have been cohorted in a separate cell block, a separate pod, while we await test results and then continue to monitor rigorously for symptoms there. At VCU, their latest case count is about 108 students, if I remember that correctly, although the number of active cases has dropped down to 90 or so. We are actively working with them in their case investigation and contact tracing efforts. The vast majority of those cases were really isolated to one significant exposure, a large gathering of students, and then the subsequent fallout from some of those students being exposed and then exposing their housemates. But what is reassuring is that we're not seeing significant clusters across the university at this time. It's a regular twice-weekly conversation. Our deputy director, who you've met, Dr. Veray, serves on their public health response team and is constantly engaging in conversation about what the threshold might be to scale back, but we are not there yet. And then I've received some questions recently about our case investigation and contact tracing workforce. How are we currently doing on staffing? We have hired 106 individuals over the last 3 months to augment our contact tracing response. We are anticipating an increase in cases as we head into the fall and winter, and so we're targeting about another 20 to 25 new hires to build that workforce. But we'll make sure that we are ready for the potential surge if it comes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Avula. On Monday, the Richmond School Board voted to allow the city to use certain schools for emergency child care for families who need it. Now that we have secured reliable solutions for emergency child care, we're focusing on standing up programs that align with the parents' timelines while prioritizing the health and welfare of the children and of the staff. We're currently exploring potential partnerships for emergency child care, And in that process, we're having conversations with the city attorney this week regarding compliance to determine who exactly can receive city funds to provide the care. One confirmed partner is the Richmond Behavioral Health Authority, a longtime partner of RPS and the city. They will operate childcare with virtual learning support for students with special needs at one of the school sites that have been offered up for this emergency childcare. It is important to recognize that our school administration has a huge burden on their shoulders right now. Reopen with Love is their top priority, as it should be in this most critical time. However, a return to virtual learning and the need for supportive childcare go hand in hand. That's just the reality for most of our caregivers here in the city of Richmond. And that is why my administration is working with partners to stand up this option for our families and our parents as soon as possible. The starting date is pending. Depending on when RPS lets us know, they can open their buildings up to the city. I've noticed there is concern about opening some schools for childcare, especially when the board did not see it fit to open them for full K through 12 learning. Well, let me take a moment to explain how we are ensuring it is safe to use schools for in-person emergency childcare options. The CDC has specifically created childcare guidelines for temporary childcare centers operated by municipalities. They include strategies for social distancing, screening criteria for students and staff, cleaning guidelines, and serving high-risk groups. School facilities best encourage safe childcare practices, even if they aren't open to full instruction. And let me explain why. The schools will not be at regular capacity. For example, Linwood Holton Elementary can hold 600 kids without social distancing. But when used as a CDC compliant childcare center, that capacity will be drastically reduced. The many classrooms function as built-in pods, allowing providers to adequately space out our kids and minimize group infection. The infrastructure there allows for preventive measures, wide hallways, encourage social distancing, and the availability of classrooms, bathrooms, and classroom sinks allow for frequent hand washing so we can adhere to the CDC guidelines. We plan on adhering to these guidelines strictly, and we wouldn't be pursuing this solution, ladies and gentlemen, if it wasn't possible to do it without absolutely ensuring the safety of all of Richmond's kids. Bottom line, hard stop. My administration, alongside Richmond Public Schools, look forward to meeting these expectations. We look forward to partnering with trusted voices and organizations to do all of this the right way. As I said earlier, there'll be more information forthcoming about these emergency childcare plans. Right now, I'd like for the superintendent of Richmond Public Schools to come forward and give an update on the status of schools as we hear learning begins again pretty soon, I think next week, Tuesday.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. Let me just begin by thanking the school board for approving the recommendation to make 5 of our facilities available for the emergency childcare that the mayor spoke of. And I also want to extend my appreciation to the mayor and his team, to the city, for their leadership on this effort. As I think the public knows, our reopening is called Reopen with Love, and I think providing emergency childcare for families who have no other options is the perfect example of what it means to reopen with love. So thank you to the mayor. Thank you for dedicating $3 million of the city's CARES funding towards this. I think this demonstrates true leadership on the part of the city, and really an example of what we can achieve when we work together, when we collaborate on behalf of Richmond's families. I also am thrilled that RBHA will be one of our key partners. RBHA has been invaluable to the students of RPS, and absolutely thrilled that they will be able to provide some of these services. As the mayor said, we start on Tuesday, September 8th at 9:15 a.m. So on screen at 9:15. Got it? On screen at 9:15. You can quote that. Some folks have asked why a later start than normally. I want to reiterate that from 7 a.m. until 9 a.m. every morning, we will be distributing meals to our students at over 1,000 bus stops all across the city. And that is absolutely critical to our Reopen with Love plan. I don't know about you, but I can't get much done every day if I haven't had a chance to get something to eat, get my coffee in the morning. And kids are no different. We want them to have a full belly when they start the day. Every family is eligible. You do not need to go to the bus stop that you normally go to. You can go to whichever one is closest to wherever you are currently residing. Every student will get a breakfast and a lunch during the morning distribution, so that they won't need to leave during the middle of the day during their virtual lunchtime to take care of lunch. If you have any questions about the times or locations of the stops, they are all listed on our website, rvaschools.net. Just look for the heart icon that says Reopen with Love. Click on that and it takes you to all the information that you need. I also want to note that our first week, the goal is low stress, high grace. We know this is new for everybody, our students, our teachers, our families, and so we have put in place some guidelines for the first week. There will be no graded assignments during the first week of school. There will be no formal tests or assessments during the first week of school. And I have instructed our principals and teachers to begin the implementation of our new curricula starting with the second week of school. So the goal here is to provide some space and grace to everyone to work through the inevitable hiccups. Let's remember, this is the very first time in Richmond's history that we will be launching a fully virtual school system. And by way of reference, on March 13th, we had just a handful of Chromebooks in our school system. We are now pushing 20,000. And so we've made a vast change in a very short time. Speaking of technology, if there is anyone watching who still does not have a device and you need one, please contact your school's principal immediately and we will get you taken care of. Starting tomorrow, Wednesday, we will also, today's Wednesday. Starting tomorrow, Thursday, my apologies, we will begin distribution of our Reopen with Love academic learning kits with all kinds of supplies for our students, everything from headphones with a microphone so that kids will be able to hear and be heard very clearly, all kinds of instructional supplies, all the books and everything else that they'll need. Please contact your school to get the dates and times. Things are divided up by the last name in the alphabet to ensure social distancing. You can also find that information on our website. Finally, we have a newly staffed family support line. So we now are doing live responses to our helpline. The number is 804 780 6195. Again, 804 780 6195. We have a number of individuals answering those calls live, including 4 individuals who are bilingual and speak Spanish and can be responsive to any families that need that support. Last, I'll just say, as always, if anybody is running into any problems, needs help of any kind, you can always reach out to me directly at jcamras, Kamras, at rvaschools.net. Thank you, everyone.
I want to just take a moment and just applaud the work of Richmond Public Schools Superintendent Cameras and members of the school board as well. As I stated earlier, they've had a lot put on their shoulders during this pandemic, from the beginning in March to get to now here, September, and starting a school year all virtual. I don't know what it takes to make all this happen. Obtaining 20,000 Chromebooks, that's a real feat right there. And ensuring that our staff, our teachers, our children are also kept safe and they still get a meal every day as well. Been doing that through the summer, been doing that since last spring. I truly want to commend the work you all have been doing. This has been a very, very difficult time for a lot of people, but we have shown as a community, as a school system as well, that we can adapt, we can adjust, we can innovate our ways through this, and we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. So, Mr. Cameras, thank you to you and the entire school board for your support for our children. Thank you. Now we'll take some questions. Yeah, we're going to work as quickly as possible to design and create a program that our parents and families can have access to this child care moving forward. We know it's very, very important to them. You know, remember, we were the ones who went out to the community and got 1,900 respond to that survey. And so we're going to do everything we can as quickly as possible to get this program up and running, because we know that our families need it. So I'm asking for a little grace and a little space and a little patience as we make this thing happen, and we will have more details to come.
You talked about VCU and the cases that we're seeing there. Just looking at some other Virginia universities, JMU, for example, just announced that they're sending students back home already.
Mm-hmm.
Are you worried that could happen here in Richmond? And what's your message to college students here in Richmond?
Yes, great question. I guess I should repeat the question as well. That is, the question was, we've seen what's going on at James Madison University in the city of Harrisonburg. Does that give us some concern about what's going on here locally at VCU? As I stated earlier, I've been in constant contact with Dr. Rao about the health status of the students and also the faculty there. As I stated, for us as a city as a whole, the data will always drive our decision making. Now, I don't get to make the decision on whether or not VCU can quote or should close, but I can always request the governor to close the institution if necessary. But the data will dictate that for us. Now, you may know that JMU is my alma mater, and 500 or more cases I hear out of JMU. To me, that data right there was clear that this posed a threat not just to other students that were there on campus who were attending, but also posed a serious threat to public health as a community as well. If I were to see that same sort of threat at VCU, I would not hesitate to talk to Dr. Rao and also talk to Governor Northam about closing things down, shutting things down, going to all virtual, and getting folks out of dorms. Wouldn't hesitate.
All right, any message to the students who are here?
You know, through those students who are here, some are attending virtually, some are in dorms. My request is the future is in your hands on whether or not the school year will continue. And what I mean by it being in your hands, that means your actions, your behavior will dictate whether or not we can go on with the full year. That means you have to, I believe, act responsibly. Wearing this mask says a lot, says that you not only care about yourself, but you care about your fellow VCU RAM as well. Washing your hands and social distancing, not gathering in mass. That means, yes, you're not going to class maybe, but you're at home and you shouldn't probably go out in mass parties, right? This is not 2018. This is not 2017 when you may have attended here as, you know, a sophomore or a junior. This is 2020 and times have certainly changed. And we have to change with those times in this critical health emergency. And that means not gathering at parties and over people's houses and kickbacks, you name it. It's time for us to be responsible. And that's all I request for the students. Sure.
The question is, as many manufacturers across the globe enter phase 3 on vaccine trials, one of the challenges that many of these companies have faced has been recruiting minority candidates to participate in trials to ensure that we have good efficacy and safety data across racial demographics. And so the question is, how has that gone? And you know, at the local health department, we really don't have any direct involvement in what's happening with phase trials. I have read that there are a couple of companies in particular that have had a lot of success in recruiting African American trial participants, but it's not something that we engage in on a regular basis at the local health department, and I don't know the status across the board. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think so. The question is, would I recommend that people explore that option? And you know, one of the things that I'm really concerned about is if we don't have enough data in minority communities, that when vaccines actually go to production and distribution, that Black and brown residents of our community are going to be very hesitant. They're going to say, well, it wasn't tested in folks like me. And we know historically that Black and Hispanic residents already are generally skeptical and a little more hesitant to engage in vaccination. We see that every year with the flu vaccine. And that is rooted in the historical treatment of minority communities. And so there are completely legitimate and understandable reasons that we have those disparities in vaccine uptake. I think it's really important for us and the healthcare sector to continue to communicate the importance, or to communicate and educate what that testing has looked like, what the safety profile has been, and really to encourage vaccine uptake, because we're going to need as many people to get vaccinated as possible if we want to accelerate our journey out of this COVID era. So absolutely, I would encourage minority residents of all communities to participate in trials if they have the option to. I have, the question is, there's been some speculation about a COVID-related death at the city jail. I have seen some of those swirling, rumors on social media. In our conversations with the sheriff, she's clearly communicated that nobody in their custody has passed away. So I don't have any more information than that at this time.
The question was, did I see the incidents, videos of the protests outside the Richmond Justice Center yesterday evening? Yes, I have. I did see that. And I think, the question that we have to ask ourselves as a community is, when an individual breaks a law, should they be arrested? And what I hear overwhelmingly from residents of the city is yes. When the law is broken, people should be arrested. Last night, as RPD has stated today, there were some laws that were broken. And there were folks who were arrested. Now, do we support protesters, demonstrators expressing their First Amendment rights? Yes. Yes. Of all the localities in the Commonwealth of Virginia, this city has seen the most protests, the most demonstrations, not because we're the capital city, right? But also I think people recognize the history that comes along with being the city of Richmond. We respect people's right to protest. However, we do not respect the right to break the law. And when laws are broken, the Richmond Police Department will do their job. Now, if there are any complaints about how the department does their job, there is a process for that. And I expect the police department to undergo that same process once again from what I saw in that video yesterday. I've spent a great portion of my life doing everything my grandmother and my father told me to do, and that was to stay out of trouble and not break the law. I may have some speeding tickets. That's true. But I've done everything in my life to not break the law. Because I knew if I broke the law, there was a consequence for that. And all I ask for anyone out there, anyone, if you're a resident of this city, I ask you to not break the law. There are ways for us to demonstrate peacefully, which many people have over the course of the last 60 plus days. Many people have come to this city and peacefully protested and demonstrated. But there have been some people out there breaking the law. That's the bottom line. And if you break the law in the city of Richmond, you will be arrested. It's very, very simple. Very simple. And that goes for anyone. Anyone. There are no special privileges for anyone. No one.
Jasmine, did you have one more question?
Yep. Can you repeat the question? I saw the video. The question was about people saying that there was excessive force used and whatnot. I saw the video. Individual broke the law. A police officer arrested the individual. If there are complaints about the arrest, I ask that people use the process to file that complaint. That's what it will be reviewed like everything else is reviewed. Everything else is reviewed. And so if someone believes that they were handled in an aggressive way, we ask that either their representative or they file a complaint. I want to just add to that just real quick as well, is that during this course of this last 60, 90 days, I've had people come to me and say, Mr. Mayor, are you with the protesters? Are you with the police? People who say that, I support the police, I'm with the police, I support the protesters, support the protesters. As many of you all know here in the media, I have asked hard questions of everyone over the last 90 days. I've asked critical and hard questions of our police department, because it's my job. And also, I have asked tough and hard questions of protesters and demonstrators as well, particularly the specific ones who choose to break the law. Why? Because that's my job. And I've had people say the mayor is I've had protesters say the mayor is pro-police, and that police say the mayor is pro-protester. And people have said, you need to pick a side. The only side I'm going to pick is the side of Richmond. I choose Richmond. I choose to do my job and ask the tough questions of everyone, whether you're a police officer or whether you're a protester. And that's what I will do.
Last question, Laura. Okay, we're done. Guys,
Okay.
thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone. Be safe. Stay strong, everyone.